7:25 a.m. in Trinidad and Tobago, and the conversation this morning on Tobago Thursdays continues. Now we're talking about the Defence Force Housing Caravan, and joining us in studio to enlighten us is Flight Lieutenant Ryan Ottley, Housing Officer of the TT Defence Force. Good morning.
Good morning, Natasha. Thank you very much. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago, and special good morning to Tobago.
Good morning and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Before we get into the details of the Housing Caravan, tell us what exactly is the role of a housing officer?
Right, so my role as the housing officer at the Defence Force is to make representation for our members and at the Trinidad and Tobago Housing Authority, HDC, and its subsidiary companies at this point in time. We also work with internal departments and other stakeholders like developers and stuff to ensure that members are afforded the opportunity of housing, home ownership type options. Yes,
that's beautiful. It's great to take that weight off of one's shoulders, to say the least, as well, or at least have some assistance along the way. So let's get into the housing caravan now. What exactly is this housing caravan, and what is the initiative behind it particularly?
Right, so the housing caravan, I am a part of a committee that's the Joint Protective Services Housing Committee.
Okay.
We meet once quarterly at the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development, where we discuss housing options and get an update from HDC on all applications that we'd have sent forward to them. So you would be appreciative that at the Defence Force and police, fire, prison services, our members, we face a lot of hardship. But knowing that our family is safe allows us to work even better, allows us to go out and focus on what's before us. So as we are part of that committee, it was observed that a lot of members don't actually know how to obtain a house, or the process of going through a mortgage type of arrangement for home ownership. So we felt it fit that the Defence Force will leap forward as an organization to bring this information and to bring together the stakeholders that can provide membership with the opportunity for home ownership. So that was supported with the police, the prisons, the fire service. They've all been to the housing caravan at some point in time or the other. The Police Social and Welfare Association actually doing home development for their officers and have extended it to members of the protective services and the Defence Force as well. So all these things, we were able to get developers, financiers, banking institution, credit unions, all to come to one central location 2 days a week for the last week and this week to be able to provide this information to membership, and it has been quite successful. Members are leaping forward, TTMB, HDC. There's also options in LSA, Natasha, that some members qualify for because of their financial position. So that was good. That was really, really good for us to see how many options is available that we just don't know of, because that information isn't readily available. You don't come on WhatsApp, them kind of thing. Hey, we selling homes for under 100,000. Well, sorry, under $1 million or under 500,000.
I mean, you're just under 100,000.
But you get those options with LSA, like starter homes and those sort of things.
So I'm glad that you mentioned that, because from when you first started, you mentioned going to HDC and chatting with them. So is it that this is something that is just within the realm, because you also mentioned the LSA, but I know you have rent zone. So is it just with HDC, or do you look at also like private realtors and stuff like that as
we
well?
actually invited private real estate realtors to come to our housing fair to provide options. That's how I'm able to tell you, listen, everybody running to HGC hoping that HGC have units. They don't. The reality, the demand exceeds the supply. However, there are other developers in Trinidad and Tobago that allows for home ownership. So we've just brought those persons together, and quite a few of our members are actually quite interested in settling with them. Yeah.
So let's speak about that, because you mentioned members. So if somebody is a member of the Defence Force, or they're a retiree, can their children benefit from it as well, or is this solely for active members?
It is for all members, whether veterans, retired or not, yes. We've had this situation where persons are on the cups of leaving the organization, and then you're wondering how we are going to survive, how you're going to make it, whether you was in a unit that the organization provided for you, or that you was renting somewhere and now you have to go off on your own. So we have provided the information, and once there's an option available that you can obtain, the Defence Force try our best to assist you with it. So whether you're a retiree, whether you are actively serving, we provide you with the option. Now, we like it if when you're actively serving and you're just in the organization, you have to grab at this because it's going to cost you way less as opposed to when you're at the end of your career. Now, you will appreciate as well, Natasha, that members of the Defence Force retire at a quite young age. Or retirement age is 45, 47, depending on the rank that you go. The age retired is 55. So mortgage options are a little more steep for members of the Defence Force. But again, we try our best to assist.
And that's something to note, really, with the, as you mentioned, the mortgage options particularly. So I know for those who are involved, they would be highly interested in this. So this one is the inaugural biannual housing fair and education caravan. When is it taking place and what are the details?
Right. So we started on the 25th of November. Today we are in Tobago again, right? We outside in Tobago at Dwight York Stadium, that nice place that we often march from Independence, coming up the hill there. So that car park area is where we set up, right? It starts at 10 a.m. daily from today and tomorrow, and we finish at 1 o'clock. Yeah, I almost go to tell him military time, 1,300 hours.
1,300 hours.
You know, but definitely. So we'll be there today and tomorrow, and that's the end of it in Tobago. But we actually started on the 25th of November at the Defence Force headquarters. Then we went up to Piarco at Air Guard facility there. And we were down in South, in Corinth. And I must say we've seen the numbers coming across the services and the Defence Force to grab this information, to really harness it and to utilize it. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it's not really surprising, is it? I mean, when you think about it, the fact, I mean, when he first said under $100,000, everybody's eyes open big, but of course we know that it's 1 million. But let's go just to some of the highlights of the event, because one of the things that I saw also mentioned is that there are retail offers and home outfitting services as well. So this is basically like your one-stop shop in many ways for home.
So we've actually had some of our suppliers reach out to us. So like, I'll give you an example, like Fence. Fence are actually offering a package for protective services, fire, police, prisons, Defence Force. Should you have an option or should you have a home now, they will outfit your home at a package price. Right? We try to get quotes, we try to get standards on board as well. But you know, Black Friday sale coming out there. So there's no reason why you shouldn't get something now, right? But definitely they've all come on board and they've said, listen, we will support this initiative as members of the Protective Service and the Defence Force. We think it's vital that you all have this information and the ability to outfit your home, which is also a very costly thing as well. So you have a home, but I've seen people sit on crates just because they can't afford the next aspect of stuff. So we try to bring this one-stop shop to everybody to have that opportunity.
And we see, of course, a lot of financial institutions, as you would have mentioned in some of this footage as well, along with some credit unions also. Speaking about, as you would have mentioned, the special financing opportunities that will be available to those who are in the service. Now, you mentioned that you saw a good turnout. Is this something that has grown over the years? While I understand this is the inaugural one, I'm assuming that the Joint Protective Services Housing Committee has been in effect for a while, yes?
Yes. So, police has done something before. This is the first time that we actually getting on board and doing something like this. And basically from their information to us is that they have seen the growth, they have seen how this is impactful to the membership of the Protective Services and the Defence Force. So while we would have leaped ahead, I'm sure that my other colleagues, whether it be prisons, fire service, will also jump ahead as well and do something within their aspect going forward in the years to come. But I think what's important for us, Natasha, is catching the serviceman at the beginning of their journey. And so our petition is to go to our leaders and tell them, listen, you need to do this right as recruits marching off the square so that they make better financial decisions earlier towards home ownership, as opposed to what we does always do. You pass out, you buy a vehicle. A vehicle is a liability, not necessarily an asset in that regard, right? So some persons that we feel as though it's necessary for them to be educated earlier rather than later on in their career.
Oh, undoubtedly, that is for sure. Ryan, something though, when it comes to qualifying for this, are there any particular qualifications aside from being a member of the service? I'm assuming it's only open to the members of the service, correct?
It's open to everybody as far as I'm concerned. Tobago is so small.
Okay.
I believe I will tell everybody, yes, while our focus is on members of the protective services, in Tobago, let everybody come on down because it's an opportunity for you to have information that you wouldn't have in one central location at any point in time given. So it's an opportunity for you now to come get that information. There's no qualifying requirement. The qualifying requirement is whatever the banks and those institutions tell you the requirements. But we are there for our membership is to get information that you may not have. So our job letter, our pay slip, we work with those departments within the Defence Force to get that to you as quick as possible to your institutions.
Something that you mentioned, and I know you've heard the agreement here verbally, of course, is when it comes to once passing out, investing in a home and not necessarily going for the standard car and so forth.
Right.
But have you seen an interest in the newest recruits coming out that they want to invest in homes?
And that is one of the reasons that caused me to suggest and recommend to the Housing Committee that this is important. So where I sit in Defence Force, I also work in finance.
Okay.
And from what I've seen is that a lot of youths come now and they ask for HDC and TTMB letters, job letters. So they are actively involved in getting home ownership. But I want to also tell them that AGC is not the only option. There are others. So that's what caused us to reach out and leap forward and have this proactive approach to home ownership. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, Mr. Ryan Ottley, Flight Lieutenant, thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's been a pleasure.
Welcome.
And looking forward to seeing more of this happening and seeing that great investment as well in our people. Have a great day.
Same to you. Take care.
Flight Lieutenant Ryan Ottley joining us this morning to speak about the inaugural biannual Housing Fair and Education Caravan happening in Tobago today and tomorrow. Go out and see what it is about and make sure that you stay tuned because there's more to see on the Now Morning Show right after this break.